Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we have Rachelle Morris back with us. And I just couldn't resist after I saw the firestorm from the last podcast where you had the audacity to say that your mom took you off the school lunch program. And you went and kind of earned your own way, right? And I just found it incredible that people felt like, what was your feeling with that? I mean, it was like, you know, your mom was some child abuser because she dared make you earn your own money.
You know, my mom, and I said this last time, she made a courageous decision. She made a decision for our family, right? And this is the story of how I became an entrepreneur. As I've been campaigning and getting to know, Salt Lake County residents all across the county, they want to know, how did you become the woman you are today? Well, as I've been doing a lot of self-reflection this year, my entrepreneurial journey started in the 6th grade after my mom took us off the reduced lunch program. We had that opportunity as a family because we had food readily available in our kitchen. And my mom taught piano in the room that was right next to the kitchen. So she could keep an eye on what my brothers and I were doing in the mornings. And so, as I said last time, she said, you can make PB&Js, or you can figure out a way to make money to pay for your lunches.
So it's not like she was going to make you starve if you couldn't make it on your own, right?
No, and I feel terribly that my mom has gotten thrown into the mix of all of this. Seeing people on Twitter say that that CPS should have been called on my mom. My mom raised 7 children with my dad. They're just like so many everyday Utahns who are struggling to make ends meet right now, quite frankly. That's the real issue of the day, is that the cost of groceries have increased by 30% during this presidential administration, and that has trickled down all the way to Salt Lake County. And Salt Lake County families are feeling that pinch.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring up some of these tweets that came out here. This is kind of where it started, right?
Yeah, so it all started because Fox 13 published a headline that talked about how there's $2.8 million of school lunch debt in the state of Utah this year, which I don't love that statistic. I'm sure you don't love that statistic, right? And so I actually...
So this lunch debt are kids that aren't on reduced price lunches, right?
Well, they could be on the reduced program. They're not on the free program,
okay.
Right?
Right.
So it's reduced, and it's also, I have some friends where they're totally fine financially, and their kids just forgot their lunch a handful of times, and they technically have school lunch debt. But there are real families who are struggling, who have school lunch debt. And I called Representatives Clancy and Perucci to talk about that problem in that headline. And I actually told Representative Perucci, I said, I have a feeling that someone from the progressive left is going to take some stories of mine out of context and attach them as if I am making policy declarations telling my personal lived experience.
Right.
3 hours later, look what showed up on Twitter.
Well, I love this remark that you made. What we are witnessing in Utah policy land, Utah politics land today, UTPOL, right, land today is an attack on my mom and her parenting decisions. As we approach Mother's Day, I want to make it clear I am so proud of my mom. She raised 7 children on an extremely tight budget, and she taught piano for decades to make ends meet. And this is an interesting thing, and you kind of explained this already, right? But it's interesting that becomes the political ball that we're throwing back and forth, right?
Well, and I recognize that ultimately, the attacks that were thrown my way, that I'm just a pawn in the scheme of the progressive left is trying to make a point. And I just happen to be a blonde woman who's a conservative, and they go, hey, we can attack her as a proxy on this much bigger debate.
Right.
But at the same time, their tactics And their strategy is undermining parents and parents' autonomy inside of homes. There are 300,000 children in Salt Lake County. That means there are hundreds of thousands of parents in Salt Lake County, right? I trust that the vast majority of parents are operating from a place of love and care for their children, and they are doing their best to put a roof over their children's heads, to put food on the table, and to open doors for their children to ultimately live the American dream. That's exactly what my mom did.
Well, and in fact, I made a comment on this very thing from the PoliticIt account, and when they talked about this, and I simply wrote, wow, one generation and you're out of poverty, right? Because here you are, a kid that grows up in a big family, a family that doesn't have a lot of money, and you go to college. Not only do you go to college, you excel in college, right? You go work for Goldman Sachs, right? And then you go from the IT world to wealth management, and then you're asked to start an office for a different bank here in Salt Lake City, and that brought you back here, right?
Yep.
And then after that, what do? You go out and raise $62 million,
yes, to invest in primarily Utah-based startups. These are Utah entrepreneurs. These are small businesses trying to grow into big companies.
And so in a sense, I liked your line at the first where you said this was the start of your entrepreneurial venture, right?
Yes, learning how to take risks, learning how to negotiate deals. Sure, there are packs of gum. My dad was a food broker. He was at a trade show. The Wrigley's booth was next to his. They didn't want to fly back to Chicago with all their excess gum. He brought home a few we're talking like big boxes of Wrigley's gum. That was my seed capital for my gum selling business, right, at the ripe old age of 12 years old.
Well, and it's like, that's somehow some new form of child abuse. I mean, it's almost so bizarre. I keep telling people, I think Joe Biden and the Democrats have gone so far left. They've left our families. They've left our kids. They've left any sort of sanity that's left in the world, right? And what's so wrong about your mother teaching you resilience and the ability to go out and make something of yourself?
Well,
that's the American dream.
Yes. My mom believed that my brothers and I, that we could solve this problem. And we did.
Right.
Right? My brothers made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. My older brother is an attorney. He went through the whole law school route, right? I became a bit of an entrepreneur during my teenage years, then ended up working for Goldman Sachs and got that corporate life in me. And now I'm back working with entrepreneurs again.
And what's interesting with your role there, I mean, you went from IT to wealth management. You were essentially helping people who had made a lot of money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Invest their money in other things.
Yes. And look, it's a lot of fun to be able to continually problem solve over and over and over again. And when we think about what makes America great is entrepreneurship. What lifts families out of poverty is by their communities opening doors where children are able to go through those doors. And the community starts with the family unit inside their homes.
Right. Absolutely. So this is kind of interesting here. Look at this rhetoric, right? Guess our lieutenant governor is pro-child labor too. People are responding to this thing and just saying, I remember there was a retweet by Mike Lee basically saying, I can't believe what I'm witnessing here, right?
Yeah, well, it was an ad hominem attack. They're not actually attacking me on a specific policy statement I've made. They're attacking my personal story and trying to then link it to a policy position that does not exist in reality.
Right. Well,
and look at this. Now they're pulling in the lieutenant governor. Now they're pulling in other people and trying to basically castigate the entire Republican Party. Our lieutenant governor is a very reasonable woman, and And this progressive left is trying to make reasonable humans look extreme.
Well, that's a typical Alinsky strategy, right? I mean, they've mastered this art, and yeah, it's really troubling. I mean, this is one here. Look at now they're going after your company, right? They're saying that okay, so Republican Rachelle Morris, Republican for Salt Lake County Council, doesn't believe needy kids should get reduced school lunches, but accepted $750,000 plus in PPP loan forgiveness. They don't even get your company right.
No, my company, Rev Road Capital, did not exist in the year 2020. We launched our fund in 2022.
And you weren't part of this Rev Road company at all, right?
Yes.
You came in to raise money to help them with seed capital for some of the investments that they had, right?
Yeah. And what's unfortunate here is this is the Salt Lake County Democratic Party Twitter account. They didn't delete this tweet. This tweet is still up.
Right.
This is factually untrue.
And that's what's weird, right? Why do you have to lie about stuff, right? You know?
Well, because they want the narrative to be that Republicans are cool with government handouts when it's for the wealthy,
right,
and that Republicans are not cool when it's handouts for the poor.
Right.
And so that's why they've kept this tweet up, because it fits their narrative. My lived experience does not fit their narrative. But they don't care about promoting the truth of who I am. Because quite frankly, this is the largest open seat race in the state of Utah that the Democrats are defending this year. Yeah. And they want to keep the seat. So they want to make me look like I am an extremist who hates poor kids and who's happy to take government bailout money for my personal company.
Yeah.
All factually untrue.
Right.
Because they're going to cut that clip and they're going to make it sound like I just confessed to that, which I did not.
Yeah, I feel like you and your rich buddies could fix this and not ask us for donations. Or if you help publicly push our governor to enter the free summer school meal program or pass legislation for free school meals for all of this, it wouldn't be an issue. And they talk about you raising $61 million, as if that's a bad thing.
As if it's a bad thing to raise money from primarily successful Utah-based entrepreneurs who want to pay it forward in the private markets to the next generation of Utah entrepreneurs. And guess what? 30% of my investors at Rev Road Capital are women. I am opening doors for women to participate as investors in venture capital.
Interesting. Yeah, amazing.
We're
going to take a break and we'll come right back.
Hi, I'm Matt Hymas, and I'm running to represent District 10 on Utah's State Board of Education. My focus for the state is on academic excellence. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are not just subjects, they're the building blocks of a well-rounded education that opens doors of opportunity for our children. Providing high-quality education to our children should always be a priority for the Utah State Board. Furthermore, I strongly believe that no one knows what's better for a child than their parents. So for children to excel, we must empower parents to be fully involved in their children's education. With your help, we can create an educational system that strengthens the minds of our children and gives them confidence in their ability to succeed. I'm Matt Hymas, and I ask for your vote to represent District 10 on Utah's State Board of Education.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Rachelle Morris here. We're just talking about the Twitterverse and your introduction to Utah politics and the way things happen, right?
It's a little different than the private sector.
Yes, it is, isn't it? It's still, when I think about this, it blows me away that somehow, because you're successful, because it's just so weird that people feel like they need to go after that.
Well, I've
right?
gotten attacked
it's not like you grew up rich.
No. Well, and I've gotten attacked from both ends of the political spectrum for being a successful woman, right? So one of the videos that was used against me on Twitter last week was in response to some folks inside of my own party saying, well, you're not gritty.
What does that even mean?
Well, so I shared the story of, hey, I started selling gum when I was 12. Anyways, we can move past the gum selling story.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, this is interesting. I'm glad she's sending something to help, but she's co-founder of a venture capitalist firm. You're not a venture. You're not. You're part of this venture capitalist firm, right?
Right.
As if a capitalist is a bad thing.
As if it's a bad thing, and as if just because I've raised over 60 million, it means that I'm worth 60 million.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not worth anything near that.
Right.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting. They attack you for this school lunch program. Then you say, hey, I'll match your donation.
Yes.
I'll give $1,000. And people are saying, only $1,000. $1,000 is a lot of money.
Well,
to a lot of people.
And while the state Democratic Party was sending an email attacking me and fundraising for the party off of this story.
That's this one right here.
Yes, not for the poor children who are experiencing school lunch debt, right? They're not fundraising for the Scripps Howard Fund that Fox 13 provided. They're fundraising for themselves off of this ad hominem attack against me.
Yeah. It blows me away because this is back to my point, right? Will you chip in to keep far-right extremists like Rachelle Morris from office? Far-right extremist, right? It just blows me away because what are they doing? This is not my grandma's Democratic Party.
No, and as I said earlier with their attacks against the lieutenant governor, they are trying to make reasonable human beings look extremist and thrust shame onto us and undermine our lived experiences and undermine the community service and volunteerism and work that we do in our communities.
Right. Yeah, it just blows you away, doesn't it? I mean, this is back to my statement before that these guys, along with Joe Biden, they've gone so far left. They've left our country. They've left our kids. They've left sanity.
Well, and so while the party was doing this targeted at me, I was actually making phone calls to some of my friends who I know are doing well financially. And I said, hey, I'm going to throw in $1,000 to this fund. Can you match me? So I was making phone calls to people in my network. And look, I'm not looking for brownie points. I'm not looking for bonus points here. I'm just saying that's what I was busy doing on that Friday. I sent out an email to my campaign list.
Look at this thing by my fellow senator. One of the absolute worst directions this country has headed in is wealthy people flaunting their personal charity and thinking that it qualifies them to run for office, particularly on a platform of reducing institutional support for folks struggling to make ends meet. It just gets weird, doesn't it?
Well, and so here we have a state senator who is attacking me multiple times on Twitter over a 48-hour period. And guess how many phone calls he made to Representative Clancy, who is the House representative who's been trying to run some school lunch legislation? He made 0 phone calls to say, hey, how do we figure this out? Yes. Yeah. I'm coming in from the left. Tyler, you're coming in from the right. Let's roll up our sleeves, because that's actually hard work.
Yeah.
And to me, what I'm feeling in all of this is that work is being undermined and discredited. Like, let's point fingers at people who work hard.
Yeah, as if this is a bad thing. Here you are down at the food pantry, right?
Yes, the Utah Food Bank, it provides over 40,000 boxes of food annually to people across the state of Utah who can't do grocery shopping on their own and who are food insecure. This was Wednesday. This was the day before all of that attack happened. This is what I was doing in reality.
So this is before they said anything. It's not like you were motivated now to go out and help.
Yes.
Poor people.
PR crisis. Oh my gosh. Let's get out to the food bank ASAP. Rachelle, hold some groceries. No, I tweeted this that Wednesday night, and then it was the 9th that all the attacks happened.
Yeah, it blows me away. This is a quote from Jonathan Haidt, and you had mentioned this to me. Then I thought it's pretty incredible. Why don't you?
Yes. So this comes from Harvard Public Health's article on Jonathan Haidt's book about the anxious generation, and it says parental safetyism, keeping children away from anything the least bit risky, especially unsupervised outdoor play, is also part of the problem, both for younger children and adolescents. A healthy human childhood with a lot of autonomy, Jonathan Haidt writes, sets children's brains to operate mostly in discover mode, with a well-developed attachment system and ability to handle the risks of daily life.
He has another book called Coddling of the American Mind, where he talks about what some of our failures in public education are because of this whole idea of, we have to coddle people, right? We have to make sure they're safe at all times, and it's just interesting how that creates a generation of people that can't handle stress, that can't handle the realities of life.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe, and it's not just my lived experience, but it's having thousands and thousands and thousands of conversations with humans over the course of my life, that we as humans are wired for growth. And sometimes growth means you have to deal with really hard trials. My mom set us up to do something in a controlled environment that launched my entrepreneurial career. There are hundreds of thousands of parents around Salt Lake County, and then, of course, many, many more across the state of Utah and across our country who are also trying to create those situations inside their homes where their children progress and grow while under their watch while they're growing up. And I honor and celebrate every parent who is working hard to raise children to be healthy, productive adults.
Yeah. Do you have any parting thoughts? What's going on now in your campaign?
What's going on? Well, so while the Twitterverse was set ablaze that Thursday night, I had already planned on going out to Magna
and
to
you were
canvass.
knocking doors.
So I was knocking doors, and I was spending time with parents and grandparents on their driveways, in their front yards, talking through and listening to what the biggest problems are that they're facing and what they think the biggest problems are inside the county. I am running to serve the people of Salt Lake County, not the politics of Twitter.
Right.
And I genuinely, and I said this last time, I genuinely believe that Salt Lake County can be the best metropolitan area in the Western United States over the next 10 years. And I'm running and I'm hoping to work really, really hard for all 1.2 million people inside Salt Lake County, including some of the individuals who were attacking me on Twitter. I think if we actually had a face-to-face conversation, we would realize I'm actually trying to solve hard problems that require innovation. I've been solving problems with creativity and innovation since I was a kid. I'm going to do that over the next 6 years in Salt Lake County.
Very good. Hey, why don't you make a final pitch to the voters?
Yes. Well, thanks for spending another 20 minutes with me. I am an innovative problem solver. I'm a collaborative conservative, and I work really hard. Just like so many of the residents and families and individuals of Salt Lake County, let's make Salt Lake County work better for all of us.
Thank you, Rachelle Morris. We're grateful to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck. We'll see you guys next week.